Hello, everybody. It's 6:55 p.m. Central Time on the 19th of September, 2021. It's Sunday here in the United States. Hope you are doing well. We are here on the Earthquake 3D live stream, and I do have some news for you. You guys may have already heard about it if you're here on the stream, but just to bring you up to speed, La Palma volcano has erupted over here west of Portugal, west of Africa, but these waters actually belong to Spain and Portugal here. So a big eruption has taken place, and there's no tsunami associated with this because the island has not fractured in half. Now, if you're not familiar with the Canary Islands and La Palma volcano here, they've done many documentaries on like the Discovery Channel and so forth, History Channel, where they've basically dissected this island, and I will show it to you here over on Google Earth. Canary Islands right here, and La Palma on the western side of the Canaries. There's a fracture that goes across the island, and the worry is that, well, not just this island, there's several that actually have this problem, but this one's the one of Discovery Channel focus that the public is aware of, and it could fracture and fall into the ocean several thousand feet down, and we're talking about 50 square miles across or more that could fracture. And the thought is, by professionals, that a tsunami could be generated from that, which would be at least a few hundred feet high, that would come in on the east coast of the United States and inundate areas far inland on the east coast. It's apparently happened in the past at some point. We're not saying it's going to happen now, but everybody else is. Okay, that's what the big worry is. So, it's now erupted. Today, it erupted with a significant eruption. We can go over to Volcano Discovery. Let me take you over there really quick, over to the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. You will see La Palma on here many times because it had a 10,000-foot high aviation warning with this, as well as big lava flows. Here's some video. I'm just going to go ahead and full screen this here. Of course, just the writing's down from some news agency, but you can see it. Everybody's got their phones out around the area because look at it, guys. Look at it. It started to fracture in half, or at least fissures have formed, and we're talking major fissures have formed across a good portion where on the edge of the caldera. All right, so fissuring is when a crack forms, or a long crack, sometimes maybe just a few hundred feet long, sometimes a mile long. Look at this. I mean, it goes up over the hills, up over the hill, all the way around the edge of the caldera. Now, I don't know if this fits with the island fracturing in half, but I would think that if it was going to, you would start to see large areas of fissuring taking place as the island's fracturing in half. I don't know if that's taking place now, but I know on the edge of the caldera, this is nothing to scoff at when you see something like this. I mean, you might see something just like that one single vent in Iceland, okay? But when you're talking about going over the hilltops and having multiple locations all the way down, that's a lot by any standards. It's more than I've seen in a long time. I've seen old video in Iceland back when other fissuring took place in Iceland. But the reason I'm using Iceland here, let me just pause this. The reason I'm using Iceland as an example, let me show you where Iceland resides. It resides right on the middle of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge here. Now you can see the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's a giant fracture in the middle of the Mid-Atlantic. And it goes right through Iceland where it comes up to the surface. It's a little less defined, but the volcanoes tell us that something's there. And then it goes back up and, of course, goes up to the North Pole and stops at a supervolcano all the way up here. 60-mile long, 30-mile wide caldera at the end or the top or the beginning, whichever way you want to look at it, of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge up here. So we come down the Mid-Atlantic and we jump over to the east. Now, why are we jumping over to the east? Let me show you on the USGS plate boundary map. This will make so much more sense. Iceland is up here. I was just using that as the example. And that's where the red line is. That's the plate boundaries defined by the USGS. Now, we come down here to the Azores and we go over to the east, back to Europe. And you'll see the Canaries are actually out on the edge of the craton or the coastal plain of Africa. So, volcanoes on the edges of coasts. Well, let me just give you another example over on the east coast of the United States. The edge of the coastal plain over here at Maine, large volcanoes and supervolcanoes exist right along the coast. Calderas right up to the Canada border. Literally, there's a caldera at the Canada-Maine border. Okay, getting back over to this, though, this fissuring that's taking place is fissuring along the edge of the craton, not the plate boundary. So the difference between Iceland and this is significant, but the same thing that you would expect to happen in Iceland, a big fissure going, many miles long, breaking across, and lots of lava coming out, as well as ash advisory warnings. You would expect that maybe when the plate boundary is breaking. So in this case, we're above a magma chamber. We'll go back over to Google Earth, and the magma chamber, of course, belongs to La Palma, but it belongs to the whole island chain, and we're on the edge of it, aren't we? The western edge. Do you see anything beyond it on the seafloor? Gets pretty smooth. They've done a lot of bathymetric undersea measurements here, so, if there was anything over to the west, you'd see it, and that means that we're on the edge of the magma chamber, which is on the edge of Africa, and then we get into the quakes. Let's go look at the quakes. This is going to make so much sense if you've been following. A big push has come out of the West Pacific. You can see it here. This is just 48 hours worth of earthquakes right now. Stepping stone path of 4s and 5s, and a bunch of deep earthquakes raised high off the globe, hammering in from underneath. Think of these deep earthquakes like levers, lever arm, and you're lifting on the underside of something that has some fractures in it. Now, the thing that has the fractures in it are the red lines here. These are the plate boundaries. So we're lifting up on the underside of the West Pacific, and then the force spreads around the plate boundaries. Whatever way it can escape out, path of least resistance. It's a standing wave of VLF, very low frequency of some kind, and we get these equal spacings of quakes that spread all the way out over to Europe. This is 24 hours on the USGS map, so it doesn't really help. You have to look at 48. Course of 2 days, usually, we see a spread take place. Up to a week, up to 7 days. But going over to the west, this happened first. You've got to remember that Gibraltar and Morocco, right here, between Spain and Morocco on the south side, just started swarming big time. We went up into the 5.0 range. Why is that significant? Let me show you. This broke and swarmed for 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Energy then flowed out to the west, and now we have the magma chamber here along the Canary Islands becoming excited. So big break here, and right next to it, the nearest huge volcanic chain becomes excited as energy inundates the whole area going from Gibraltar out to the T intersection at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Now, let me take you over here. Here's the arrows. Take a look at it. It's perfect. Comes out of Europe, goes down through Gibraltar. Once we get here, we're on the edge of the craton down here on the south side, but these magma chambers connect in back up to the plate boundary. USGS map doesn't show it, and you just have to go look at the volcanoes themselves marked by the Smithsonian to see what I'm talking about here. You see where the red triangles are? Those are the marked volcanoes, but all of these are. So the Ribin Seamount and these seamounts here, these conical shaped seamounts, these are volcanoes. They're just as yet not documented from the Smithsonian. I don't have place marks for them. But they connect right back up to it. I mean, it's a slam dunk. It goes right back up to the plate boundary. So when we start pressing on Africa and energy is flowing across and breaks at Gibraltar, it's being diverted down to this magma chamber. Now, the worry is that the magma chamber will fully fracture the surface, and then that gets us back to the video, which is just... Look, man, look at it, guys. Look at the trees in height comparison. We're talking hundreds of feet. These are huge. Each one of these pieces of flying magma or lava, we're talking about the size of a car. I mean, that is not, those are not small. And we'll go back over to the greater long distance view here. And when I see this going across hill to hill to hill, up and over and around, and they're talking about it being the edge of the caldera breaking, this is just one video that I'm showing you. We could probably go find more. Let's see. Can I even find more? I'm on Microsoft. Again, you guys can find a video of this. Again, I don't want to step all over any copyrights either, but I mean, this is scientific. It's fair use for sure. Video unavailable. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I wonder why. Guardian video not available. Yeah, okay, all right. Gonna be blocking the videos now, are we now? Okay, well, this is fair use, okay, and we're talking about something that's very significant. Let's hit play. Oh, of course, NBC, right? Well, at least they have sound. Look at that, guys. I'm just, look, I'm not going to tell you that this is going to fracture in half and cause a tsunami to come over to the east coast of the United States. Yet. I will not sugarcoat it, though. If I see it starting to happen, I'll be the first person to get on and tell you. Right now, I'm very concerned. Very concerned, but not concerned enough yet to issue an actual warning. But look, with warnings, do you guys understand warnings versus watches? When we talk about the weather in meteorology, you have a watch that can happen for, let's just use severe thunderstorm. You've got a severe thunderstorm watch where you're watching out for it, okay? It could be partly cloudy, a beautiful day, you're watching out, the watch has been issued. The warning only is issued when the storm is developed, when there's an actual physical storm spotted, either on radar or by a trained spotter. So, you've got your watch and your warning. Well, there's a time between the watch and the warning where it's significant, where you start to see dark clouds on the horizon, but there's no actual big wind yet. Where you start to see billowing clouds going up, maybe even a few flashes of lightning up in the cumulonimbus clouds going up to the upper atmosphere. Okay, you know then that it's getting ready to have a storm. So where we're at right now is between that, the watch, and the warning. I will issue a warning very soon if this carries on. Now that it's done what it's done, and it's going where it's going, I don't have the coordinates of the spot which physically broke. So maybe we should go back over and just... They're evacuating people, but this isn't going to help me. Nobody's provided coordinates of the location itself which fractured. And I cannot tell. I'm not one of these online experts of triangulating positions by trees and plane flights over. I mean, somebody else is going to need to find out where exactly the fissuring has started. But I heard the edge of the caldera itself on La Palma. But if we're talking about the caldera, it's different than the actual La Palma location here, which you see here. Now, to me, this looks like it compared to the video there. Do you see that? The hill after hill after hill after hill after hill of volcano. That to me says this. La Palma itself. Okay, now the caldera is different. We're talking about the caldera here. And then we have smaller calderas, I guess you could call them. But I would call these cones, spatter cones, just a whole line of them. Then why is there a line of spatter cones there to begin with? Well, I think that answers our question. The reason there's a line of spatter cones there to begin with is because, first of all, this has happened many times in the past, but because of the fracture itself that everybody's worried about. If you go look up the fracture, you're going to find a bunch of papers going back to the 1940s. And the papers show this portion of the island, with all the people on it too, unfortunately, breaking off, that this breaks and falls down to the west. Again, this is their simulations, not mine. I've went and looked at the papers. I'm not going to pull them up now. Good luck finding them too, because it seems like they've kind of scrubbed the internet, but you can find it by just searching La Palma and add in the name of the researcher. Oh boy, what was their name? Oh, okay. We just search La Palma tsunami paper, actually, and you will find it. And I don't remember their name. Anyway, down here, this whole thing is projected that if the fissuring happens and breaks completely, that it would fall and look to the west. Down in the lower right-hand corner, you see it says ELEV, below where it says Google Earth. You might have to be full screen if you're on a phone. Good luck, you might need to zoom in. But ELEV is elevation. So right here along the coast, we're right at sea level, going right down to the beach, 0 feet. And then we go to the west, out into the Atlantic Ocean. So we go down right here, about 20 miles off coast. We're down at 4,869 feet. Go a little bit further to the west, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the worry is that this portion of the island would break off and fall over to the west down 6,000 feet, and that this portion of the island is big enough that it would fall out 20 or more kilometers, or 10 miles or so, out into the ocean. So 10 miles by 6,000 displacement. And then that, of course, is the worry that professionals have for sending the big tsunami over here to the east coast of the United States, fully going over the state of Florida entirely, because, I mean, how many places in Florida are above 100 feet? Well, I can move my mouse across central Florida right here, and you'll see we're right at 100 feet. Go over to the coast, 60 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, all of southern Florida. Once you get up here, you start getting to 170 feet. But let's just say we're dealing with something like a 100 to 200 foot wave. And that's what the professionals said would be generated at minimum 100 to 200. Think of the Japan tsunami for a 100-foot tsunami. I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is the professional saying this. But with the fishing going on, I've just got to talk about the potential. So we talk about pretty much the whole state of Florida. Only the highest points in Florida, in central Florida, where it gets a little bit hilly, would you be even okay? Maybe if it's a 100-foot wave. Anything over 100, even the highest points in Florida would be pretty much toast. Same with up here along the coast. Everywhere up to the first set of mountains right here. And that's about 100 miles inland, 50 to 100. Everywhere up the East Coast, pretty much. All the cities. I mean, New York, man, you're at negative 2 feet right here in New York. All of downtown New York, look at it, 23 feet above sea level. Okay. It just gives you an idea of what we're talking about if this were to happen. And in all those stupid Discovery Channel shows, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Dun dun dun. Then they cut to some commercial for like Nexium or something. Well, here we are, and now we're talking about an actual fishery and fracturing forming on La Palma that's very impressive. Again, when you see something like this, when I see something like this, it makes me raise my eyebrows enough to want to tell my viewers, look, guys, it doesn't mean full fracturing and fissuring yet, but you might want to keep your eye on it just like I am. There's nothing much we can do about it. What are you going to do? Evacuate the whole East Coast on the potential of something happening? No. You would have to wait till it happens. Then, that gets into what happens if it happens. And let me just take you over and tell you what I would do if it happened. I would be immediately jumping on and going checking the National Data Buoy Center. So, for instance, here, I would go check the NDBC and see what the buoys are showing if this thing fractured and fissured, and I'd want to see what the wave is doing. So I'm going to zoom in on the area, and what you're going to see is something very odd. Well, look at our coverage on the planet, right? I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere out here, and we're at spots where you might not even want to know about a tsunami. But then here, where all the interest is, everywhere to the west of it, nothing. And you see the color red means stations with no data in the last 8 hours. I just call those stations that are off. They might not be fully off, but they're only reporting maybe once every few days, or if at all. So we don't have any buoys to reference if there is a tsunami. How do you like that? I'll tell you what, man. There you go. So, if a tsunami happens, what happens? The island fractures in half. Let's just do potential on this. This thing breaks in half, falls in, and sends a tsunami out. The potential speed of that is going to be at the speed of which the falling happens. So if it's a sudden, quick shift and everything breaks and falls in fairly quickly, once the tsunami is generated, it spreads at the speed of a jetliner or the speed of a flying aircraft or so. So anywhere between 300 and 500 miles per hour it can spread. Now, if you're in a boat out here, you wouldn't really even be able to tell. You might get a little displacement, but it's going to be a widespread wave traveling very fast. Once it gets close to shores of anything, whether it's an island or over here on the east coast of the United States, you'd start to see all of our buoys light up. And that's where all the buoys are here. But at that point, you'd have maybe an hour at most. Once these lit up, at the most, an hour. Think again, speed of a jetliner to fly from here to here. I mean, again, well, how long does it take to fly between two states in the East Coast? 30 minutes, right? An hour? So if a wave is coming in, once it gets to the shore, it then slows down to still very fast at 100 miles an hour. You remember the Japan arrival of the wave, there was people that were in cars that weren't able to drive away fast enough. But a lot of those cars were driving parallel to the coast, up and down the coast. They were driving on roads going this way. Like, imagine this is Japan. They're going north and south, and the wave is coming at them this way. They're driving north and south. And you need to be heading away from the wave. And that's my best advice to you, is that if this were to happen, you would get news of it, probably online from a person like me or somebody in a chat room or something, because the media is going to drag their feet on it because they don't want to create a panic. And the panic would be, you can't evacuate this many people that quickly in 8 hours' time, or 6 hours, however long it takes to fly from here to here, that even if it's 10 hours or 12 hours, that you still can't evacuate all those people along from all of the state of Florida and all the way up the East Coast. So the media wouldn't tell you. I don't think. USGS would probably bury the information and they just sit there and wait till it gets there. I don't know. It's hard to tell what they would do, but I can tell you that you wouldn't have the time you need to get out if you waited for them to warn you. So you have to watch. I have to watch. We have to wait and see what happens with this. I don't think it's going to fracture in half, but I have to raise the potential that it could, just because they did so many times in the past. And now that it's happening, the fissuring, it's significant. So if you live on the East Coast, if I lived on the East Coast, what would I do? Well, I would have an evacuation plan immediately set up that gets me out of the area as soon as this thing, if this thing fractures. This is so significant, I can't believe I actually have to say this, that everybody on the East Coast, from all the way up at Nova Scotia or beyond, at Newfoundland and maybe even going up to Greenland and everywhere up east, all the way down to Florida and beyond, to the Caribbean, the Bahamas. I mean, the people in the Bahamas, what are they going to do? They can't go anywhere. It's an island, guys. They might have a few hills that are that tall, but you'd have to find something over 100 to 200 feet tall, at least, assuming the wave's 100 feet tall. Let's just say it's bare minimum, like they said, 100 feet. You would have to be able to go up above 100. How do you find it? I would use Google Earth. I'd go download a free copy, guys. It's free. Earth.google.com. Download it, get the app, whatever you need to do, and then move your mouse or your finger or wherever you are over where you are, and it'll give you your elevation. And then you look around your area. Let's just say you lived in Richmond. You live in downtown Richmond. You got the river that comes in there, 100, maybe 100 feet. This is all it. I mean, we're talking low sea level almost coming in on the river. So you would need to get up above 100. Well, I'm moving my mouse around here. I'm seeing 190, 200 right in these hills right here. And there's roads to get there. So it's not like they're completely out of range. You would drive there and you would try to go up as high as you could. That's what you would do. That would be my evacuation plan if I lived in the area. I would have to know how big the wave was, and we're screwed on that. There's no way to know how big the wave would be because there are no buoys all the way up to the coast of the United States. Once they get here, then we can kind of estimate, but you wouldn't be able to tell how many or how long duration or anything. All the information you would want to know that as it's coming across here is not given to us. And you go over and you see that over in the Pacific, they do give it to you, at least where you would want it coming across. That's what this whole grid is here, basically. And that, to me, says that we're operating out of a place of ignorance and out of a place of quote-unquote fear. And I don't like that. The fear that's been generated on this topic is because of the Discovery Channel shows and the professionals hemming and hawing about it publicly since 1944. But the worry is now here, and the actual physical activity is now here to warrant us to look into it more than just a Discovery Channel show. This is real life. This is something that I think that everybody would need to know, not just me talking about it. I think that every geophysics channel on YouTube needs to be talking about this. If they're not, they need to. Just raise the possibility. Again, you need to couch that with, I don't think it's going to happen. Look, there's possible and likely. Possible is what we've been talking about for the last 30 to 45 minutes. Likely means it's getting ready to go down. We are right between the two, just like the other description that I used earlier. We are right at that middle point between a warning and a watch. We are right between. And I want you, if you know people who live in the area here, around where the island could collapse. And I want you, if you know anybody on the east coast of the United States, the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, all the way down. I mean, do I need to name all the islands? I don't even know them. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know the name of your islands, okay? But, I mean, you see them all. We go all the way down, and then we go down on the east coast of South America. I would say if it were to go in and cause a huge Atlantic-wide tsunami, once you get down past here, you start talking about more like what Japan, with the Japan wave, and it would be a few feet high that would come into harbors, and it would be less of a worry maybe here and here, and then maybe it would be even more of a worry all the way down at the other end for our friends down in Antarctica. So, it's a big deal. There's some simulations that show the wave propagating out also as far north as Greenland, which means that we would have to talk to the people in Greenland, Iceland. It's all depends on what angle this thing falls in at, if it falls in. If it falls straight to the west, does it fall to the northwest, fall to the southwest? Does it somehow fall to the east and they're all wrong? Does it not fall at all? Does it slowly fall over the course of days or weeks? What if it slowly sinks and goes in? Then there's no tsunami. What if nothing happens? These are all the possibilities. So it could just carry on erupting, forming new chains of volcanoes. Here, let's go back over and show you again. It could keep erupting and form new chains of volcanoes, spatter cones, all the way down here and stop. It could erupt and carry on fissuring, which would then, I think, lead to that fracture forming that they're all talking about. It could go and stop and go and stop and go and stop. That's another option, I guess. And then it could just break in half and fall in. I mean, this, to me, is one of these topics that where you got to talk about it and you need to be concerned about it. I wouldn't be moving out of my house yet if I lived on the East Coast, but I would certainly get on Google Earth and plan a escape route for a tsunami that's over 100 feet high, just in case. I mean, come on. Why wouldn't you? You could just take a few minutes and go look up your height and go find the nearest spot that's a couple 100 feet high and be like, okay, I'm driving there. We're piloting the car, we're driving there. Then that would mean you need to get your bug out bags together. You need to get all your gear together. You need to get your emergency documents together. Have it all ready just in case. Which you should already have that anyways. Come on. You should. For all kinds of emergencies, not just a tsunami. I mean, for severe weather, for any kind of disaster. Sometimes it's even just political disaster or economic disaster. You still need those things. So I'm not trying to lecture you. I'm just reminding you. Now, let's get into it for the rest of the planet, shall we? Just really quick. Again, this is my La Palma update, but look at the United States. The United States, 3 different sets of 4s in the last day. And we're not just talking anywhere. This spot at an oil pumping operation at Carson, California was the topic of discussion in my last video. This earthquake just struck today over at Texas on the edge of the Craton. Look at the Craton diagram. See how it makes a bend down through Texas? Now see where the 4.0 earthquake is? Well, no, you don't see it now. Here, let's wait for this to refresh. There it is. So this one, old oil field from the late 1800s. Now there's subdivisions and a grocery store built on top of it. But what about this one? Let me show you Toyah, Texas. We're going down to Toyah. Oh, God. Here we go. Now I just want you to know right off the bat, I'm not a tree-hugging environmentalist. I drive a Hummer H3, okay? But when I start to see millions of drill points that dwarf the drilling operations in Saudi Arabia in some cases, and I see them all put here, right on the edge of the Craton. These are not houses. These are not forestry clear cuts. They are all oil and gas. Now, we already know about Texas and oil. Come on, Dallas, JR. Who shot JR? Okay. Well, a bunch of kids, a bunch of Zoomers aren't going to get that, but for you boomers out there, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Look at all the drill points. We go into excessive overdrive, where it looks like, well, it really does look like ants on the ground. They've done whole Texas counties this way. Again, these are not houses. Every one of these is an oil well. Let me show you a town just so you can see what a town looks like. Here. That's what a town looks like. And then you get all around town and you got millions and millions of drill points. I'm not exaggerating. So they've drilled millions of drill points along the curved edge of the craton. And guess what? The earthquakes go right to it, like perforations in a piece of stone. Now, there's connecting points between these fours. So here, oil pumping operation from the 1800s. Thousands of drill points in LA, right next to the Shell refinery. And then drill points over in Texas. What about the other four? It's the exact same size, isn't it? 4 and a 4. Look where it is. It's on the northwest edge of the craton, coming in out of Idaho. But the spot up in Idaho is not drilled for oil and gas. Mother Nature's punched this point. This is the magma chamber for Yellowstone, down below here. This earthquake is up above it. Now, Yellowstone National Park is here at the Wyoming border, up at the surface. The magma chamber goes down at an angle 30 kilometers. It's 11 Grand Canyons in size, the magma chamber. And the center of it is right below this. So this quake up above it, edge of the craton. Quake down at the oil fields in southwest California, far coastal plain of the craton. And then we get over to Texas, of course, and the flow is going just as we would expect, right on the arrows. Path of least resistance around the craton like it's a rock in a river, guys. Now, this was all said to be impossible by professionals. They even scorned and ridiculed me online. Yeah. Little they know that was going to, blow me up to 500,000 subscribers. Let me get a sip of my coffee. Word to the professionals. Scandal, especially when you're right about something in science. You might as well just signed it over to me. I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that if you create a controversy like they did, you have to understand that the biggest names in the industry came and tried to stop my research while I was doing it publicly. It was kind of shameful. And I was publishing it all. And now here we are. You can see it. The flow goes right across the craton. I mean, this is expected. The 4 over in Texas, because the 4 hit in California yesterday. 4 in California yesterday, 4 in Texas today. Flow going across the plate. Oh, and by the way, a new earthquake has struck here at 22:21 UTC about 2 hours ago. A new 4, well, USGS downgraded to 3.8, but a new 4 struck here at the Oklahoma-Kansas border. Following those arrows over to the east, the flow is trying to make its way over to the east. It's not that one earthquake's causing the other. It's that all these quakes are being caused by a greater force spreading across the plate. There's a force spreading across the plate. Then the quakes break. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way across the plate in the course of a few days. We're going to Oklahoma. Look where we're going. Do you see anything that looks like what we were just looking at down in Texas? Look, guys, it's the exact same. Oil and gas and high-resolution images of it now, because these are latest flyovers. So look at it. You can see it. The oil derrick, the oil pump, the jack, the tanks, the pumps. Look how many there are. Oklahoma has now 520,000 or more different drill points for oil and gas, mainly fracking. Now, the fracking is when they pump wastewater, or in this case, here, they pump wastewater, as they call it. Really, it's just fresh water mixed with toxic chemicals they're trying to dispose of. And it just so happens that breaks apart the shale down in the ground and releases more oil and gas. They do this usually in older wells that have already been pumped, and it forces out more oil and gas. And they leave the nasties down in the ground, and up comes the oil and gas, and they pump it out. Okay, we're dealing with a lot of drill points here. So is it any wonder we get the same sized quakes going all the way across the plate in the course of, we're looking at 48 hours here across this. Now, it's important you understand one more time. It's not one earthquake causing the other. It's that each one of these, they're all about the same size. There's an inundating force that's going across the craton, and I believe it's VLF, very low frequency standing wave. And that gets into the standing wave video I show in all my updates here. That when the wave is introduced to the plate, think of one earthquake Okay, one earthquake down here, and then several, 10, 20, a swarm. It's not that one earthquake is causing the other earthquake. It's that all of the quakes along the way are caused by this wave, this greater wave. And the greater wave is coming from down below the plates, coming up out of the core of the Earth. Starts over on the West Pacific. It's very low frequency. It spreads thousands of miles in the course of days. Starts with the deep quakes raised high off the globe. We have letter Ds. Check it out for the new people. We have letter Ds on the map, signifying where we look for new deep earthquakes to occur. The deep earthquakes we can see easily because they're raised high off the globe. And look, each letter D is filled in perfectly where we expect new deep earthquakes. And these are forecast points. So we can forecast where we're going to expect new deep earthquakes. Now, I don't know why these spots are where the deep earthquakes are happening. I don't have the technology or the information or the education, I'm a high school graduate, to determine what's down below the plates at these spots that's causing the deep earthquakes. I know that the deep earthquakes are happening there, and I know that spreading out from those points, a stepping stone path of almost the same sized quakes is spreading out across that distance, and that is a standing wave. So the standing wave is causing the quakes. It's not one earthquake causing the other. Each one of these is like a new 5. And then I'm going to park my mouse over the peak of one of the waves. And what you'll see is that the valley or the trough of the wave fills in the peak. And each wave fills in the previous wave's middle point. Empty space, filled space, empty space, filled space. And they're equally distributed across the tank. Now this is in the laboratory. Now let's get back to the quakes. Going across the West Pacific. You see that? Going over to the west and down to the south. Well, that's following the red lines of the plate boundaries that I've been showing you in this entire update. Going down here, equally spaced quakes across the uneven wave tank. Mother Nature's wave tank is not evenly square or rectangular like in the laboratory, but the same thing's happening. Same within the United States. The spread is going across the plate, but once it gets to the U.S., it spreads around the plate. And it's not just the U.S. that it spreads around. This wave takes a path of least resistance around every plate. We see earthquakes hit the wall of South America. Look at the spacing on that. Isn't that perfect? And they're all the same size, guys. And going around, following our arrows, and it goes around like a rock, trying to flow out, following the plate boundaries over to the east. Goes this way and around up to the north, and it goes this way down and around to the south, as opposed to brute force going through the center of the plate. So this flow happens like a flowing river almost. Now that you understand that, you can understand that earthquakes are coming your way. And when you see it coming your way, like what we're seeing here, again, here's 2 days worth of quakes. We are really picking up in the number of 4s and 5s. When you see it coming your way, and you see half the United States hit with 4s in a day, that means half the United States has been inundated with 4.0 range energy in a day. From Oklahoma all the way back up to Yellowstone's magma chamber, and all the way down to Southern California's oil fields, and all the way down to Texas oil fields. So again, wouldn't you call the spot where the 4s are now just the western edge of the craton? From the Continental Divide west, and then the drill points, of course, down in Texas and Oklahoma. Now you're probably looking on the East Coast then. You're like, Dutch, what about the East Coast? What about the New Madrid seismic zone? Well, these are not drill points on the New Madrid. It's the leftover trickle out of what's not expended across the plate over to the west. Let's go over and take a look on the East Coast. A boatload of volcanoes are just to the north of here. And supervolcanoes, not just small volcanoes. The main and East Coast volcanoes, most people don't know about. I will just show you. Okay, right here, looks like nothing. Pretty much is. Pretty much nothing. Right. Now Rhode Island and New Hampshire. Now starting right here along the coast, going all the way up, the first caldera right down next to Harpswell. The only reason I remember that is because of the name Harp. But right up here at the border, this thing, let me zoom in on it. See where it says Spidnik Lake? Let me click on the Google Earth place mark. The Mount Pleasant caldera is a large, eroded, late Devonian volcanic caldera complex located in the northern Appalachian Mountains of southwestern New Brunswick, Canada. It's one of the noticeable pre-Cenozoic calderas. Its formation is associated to a period of crustal thinning. Okay, now what does that have to do with Rhode Island? Well, let's go right back down here. I could take the time now to go do the searching, but I would actually encourage you guys to do a little bit of sleuthing and digging yourself. Search Rhode Island or Connecticut, and volcanism, and you will find many studies about the volcanoes, the New England volcanoes. Yeah, stuff you never were taught in school. We got an earthquake right next to there. Do you think it's related? An earthquake struck... Well, I mean, if an earthquake struck right next to Mount St. Helens, would you think it was related to Mount St. Helens? Okay, summing it all up, number of earthquakes increasing, but the point of this whole update, La Palma. La Palma, look, my East Coast viewers, I've got all sorts of friends and family and everything. And, I mean, let me just put it in perspective. My best bud online, Tattooed, down here in Jacksonville. And I don't know what his elevation is. He's already been doxxed, actually, by Google. Google put out his home phone number and his address. When you search Tattooed, up came his home. I don't know why Google did that to him. Anyway, here, yeah, I mean, we're talking about 100 feet. 112. 100 to 112 south of Jacksonville. Right down in here. 90 feet, 70 to 90. Tat would need to have an evacuation plan to get up above 100 feet or more. Looks like right down here. Looks like right in here it goes up to 100-something feet. But I mean, what are you going to do if you have to drive how many miles? Well, let's measure miles. I'm going to use the coast of Jacksonville as an example because that's where my bud Tat's from. So here's 40 miles, and we know how long it takes to drive in traffic 40 miles. It takes a couple hours, doesn't it? So let's just say 2 hours to drive in traffic 40 miles. Well, or that's 50 miles. 2 hours, right? And that's if it's not total bumper to bumper, stopped, people are being weird or whatever. And people would be being totally weird if there's an evacuation going on. People would have like caravans of their gear and they'd be all discombobulated trying to drive. So here's a 4-hour drive. Well, 3-hour. And you're talking about maybe getting up into the foothills of Georgia at 200 to 300 feet. So, but the whole state would need to do that, and the roads are not capable of handling that. So you would need to be on your toes and ready to go at a moment's notice anytime now for the next several weeks. And after the next several weeks, I'm going to watch, but I'm not going to make any pronouncement anyway, one way or the other, until something significant happens more than it fissuring, like some kind of sliding or tilt meters that are tilting and they're going to let us know. GPS measurements. We're going to have to rely on people. We're going to have to rely on people, guys. I don't think we're going to get the information from the professionals. What do you think they've got? GPS meters stationed all over the place? It's going to take people with GPS to let us know if they're starting to shift by a foot or more. And it'll, they normally with scientific instruments can be very sensitive and detect maybe even a few centimeters of movement. But we're talking about on the market stuff we'd have to rely on with people. So we might get every foot measurement every few minutes from a GPS satellite. And that's what we would have to rely on. Same with the buoys. We don't have any buoys, therefore no information on a wave until it gets all the way over here, just about an hour off the coast of the United States. You get about an hour warning. Boy, that would really help in the time of a disaster, wouldn't it? So you're going to have to be on top of it. I promise to be on top of it. I'll be watching daily to see if there's any updates. But it's, again, I'm waiting. I would urge you guys to keep your ears and eyes open on information coming out of La Palma, coming out of Spain, coming out of the area, and funnel that information into our chat room, whether I'm there or not. Come into the live Twitch chat room. It's always on. Even if the stream isn't on, the chat room's still on. And there's always some people in there that can get the info and at least relay it to me if I'm not directly there. Twitch, again, twitch.tv/DutchSinceOfficial. I know a lot of you guys don't like using Twitch. Maybe you're not familiar with it. It's just where we stream live 24/7. YouTube has not been friendly to me doing that on YouTube. So, the 24/7 thing. And you guys, it's going to fall onto us. I don't know of any other community or group online that's live 24/7 that's on top of information like this that would be raring and ready to go if anything actually happens. It's like an alert network that's actually just been built by chance. I couldn't tell you a better use for it than right now. So we know people that are in Spain. We know people that are in Portugal. I may even have viewers in Morocco and whatever other countries. Guys, I don't even know my West African countries here. So we have Morocco and Western Sahara. That's the name of the country, Western Sahara. Okay, those are the countries. I may have viewers there. If not, I know I've got viewers in Morocco, Spain, and Portugal. Please let them know now that we need information from them, because I don't think we can rely on our guys to give us the truth or anything until after or right before it's imminent. And I mean imminent as in it's on your doorstep. You don't have time to leave kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to save this as an update. Do we have any more information that I need to know of? People in chat, I guess now would be the time for you guys to pipe up and let me know. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, I pre-record these on Twitch Live. We are live right now to an audience of God knows how many people. But I want you guys on YouTube to possibly start thinking about tuning in live over on Twitch. Again, just to get the info. I don't even need to be there. You don't even have to pay to be there. You can just sit there and watch. So you just need to be a subscriber paying to do the chat room thing. That's my best advice. I wish I could give you more. And I'm going to tell you to have an earthquake plan, but what good is an earthquake plan when you need to have a tsunami evacuation plan, which is entirely different than just surviving an earthquake. You have to hit the road. You have to know where to go. You have to have appropriate supplies and long-term supplies because you're not going to be coming back to your house kind of thing. So these are entirely different scenarios. Looks like we're pretty good. I don't know of anything else going on. Everybody else looks good. Stanley Swarm. Thanks, Dutch. All right. Okay, we're wrapping it up. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, we're not technically live. We are live on Twitch. I got so many people that think we're live when I'm there talking. So just please tune in when you can. I'll be back, and I will upload it to YouTube if it's significant. We'll get it to you as soon as possible. Word up, and much love. Don't be scared, guys. This is a time where you need to be prepared, and I'm serious now. Don't be scared, be prepared. My old motto, the one I've been using for 10 years, it applies now more than ever. You can't be scared about these things. These are natural processes. They've apparently happened many times before in the past. Just so happens to be happening in our lifetime. If it goes down worse than it already is, and we're talking about a tsunami on the east coast of the United States, it would change everything. It would just change everything. For the worse for us. I mean, I don't need to tell you that. You can imagine what it would be like. Let's just hope for the best and plan for the worst. All right? And I will do an update as necessary. I'm going to title this video something like La Palma erupts, possible tsunami, but not likely. I don't know how to phrase this. I'm going to have to come up with a good title for it that's not scary but informative, but yet still covering a very serious topic. All right. Much love, guys. Peace out.